It's the season of giving, but it's also the season of working hard as the year slowly comes to an end. But like anything, you're bound to run into a few creeps here and there. That's why on today's episode of Scary Stories, we're taking a listen to creepy and scary encounters from people's places of work. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Number 1. Lonely gas station clerk. This was sometime in the early 2000s. I don't exactly remember the year, however I do remember the night in question, because this was when I used to be a clerk at a small gas station where I often worked the graveyard shift. Working at night was quite a pain in the rear end, but it did pay for my bills. In the time I worked there, I encountered some pretty creepy people. But there was one experience I wanted to go over where my life was literally in danger. One night in the cold Kansas winter, I was by myself and everything had been pretty dead. Seeing as we're off the highway, we did get quite a fair amount of traffic, but this night was extra lonesome. Around 11 p.m., my friend Jenny called me, and she said she would stop by on her way from work just to say hello and keep me company. She arrives, and everything is going by fairly innocently. Around midnight, a woman walks into the store, and she tells me she needed help with one of her tires.
Sorry to bother you, miss, but I'm having issues pumping air into my tires. Do you mind coming out and helping me?
She said, with a nervous smirk across her face.
Sure, ma'am. Just give me a minute. What kind of car do you have, by the way?
I replied, trying to start a friendly conversation.
It's a Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go.
I responded, with the most forced smile I could muster up. I guess I was more annoyed than anything, as I was trying to avoid any and all contact with the outside world, seeing as it was absolutely freezing outside. Anyways, I grabbed my coat, and I follow this woman outside as the front doorbell chimes. Immediately, I was hit with a blast of Antarctic air and made all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
My car's out this way. Follow me,
she said confidently. I'll admit, something about her stance and the way she spoke made me a bit suspicious and a bit on the edge. Perhaps it was her presentation that made her look like a junkie, or maybe the whiff of beer I got from her breath. I wasn't sure, but I follow her nonetheless until we reach the back of the parking lot. It's as empty as an open farm field, with a couple of dingy gas station lights illuminating our surroundings.
Hey, where's your car? I don't see it.
I respond to her, as all I'm able to see was a beat-up early 2000s gray Dodge Caravan.
It's that one. You don't see any other vehicles around, do you? Wait, I thought you said you had a Volkswagen Beetle.
Alarm bells were starting to ring as she started to stutter even more.
Oh, I thought you wanted to know what my favorite car was. No, honey, that's a dream of mine. Now can we hurry? I need to get back home. I need to feed my cats.
Suspicions were running down my mind like tears, but I still gave her the benefit of the doubt.
Here's how you use it. You just grab the handle and you pump this into your tire. See, it's easy. And you told me it wasn't working.
This is where one of the scariest moments of my life occurs. I hear a car door open. It wasn't the one next to me, but it was the driver's side. Bear in mind, the windows are tinted, so I wasn't sure of anybody else in the vehicle. Well, I look up from my bent position, and there's this absolute giant of a man, easily over 6 foot 250 pounds. He's towering over me. But that wasn't the only scary thing. He had a syringe in one hand and a knife in the other. This was a setup. I'm startled as I jump back, falling on the slippery ice below me.
You should have never followed me out of that store, sweetie. You're going to come with us whether you like it or not,
she more or less said. I can remember her facial expression. I could describe it as somebody from a psych ward. Seeing that she too had revealed the knife, I started running back to the gas station, as I can hear the snow crunching just feet behind me.
Jenny, the shotgun, grab it,
I yell in absolute fear as I fly through those front doors. Jenny was confused, but when I pointed to below the front counter, she grabs the shotgun we keep for safe purposes, and she throws it at me. These two maniacs had no clue what was waiting for them as they stepped through the front door. I'm going to blast the two of you into oblivion. Get the hell out of here. I never want to see you two ever again. They froze in place. Then they just stare at Jenny and I before running out of the store. Last thing we heard was the sound of tires screeching against the pavement as they get away. Of course, I did end up calling the police, but they took more than 20 minutes to get there. They took my statement, but unfortunately, they were never caught. Update. A lot of you were wondering why we didn't take a look at the security cameras. We did, and the police did take a look, but the quality was so terrible, it wouldn't really have mattered. Number 2. An unexpected visitor. This was back in the late 1980s, when I used to work at a mom-and-pop hamburger restaurant called Henry's Burgers. It wasn't the most spectacular job in the world, but hey, it was a job my uncle helped me get as he was friends with the owner. Now, the restaurant was styled in that early 1950s look. Imagine the McDonald's brothers' vision of a perfect fast food restaurant. Wide open space, huge kitchen with a small room for customers, and tables outside with a parking lot in the front. That was the look. Okay, so it was closing time, which for us was around 10 p.m., and myself and another coworker, who we will call Shawn, were in the process of closing and cleaning everything. I remember we had been talking about sports or something of that nature when we started to hear the distant sound of police sirens. Another police chase? What? Isn't this like the second one this week? I said jokingly. Perhaps, but whatever, dog. Let's just finish this. I want to go see my girl, my coworker Shawn says. By the way, Shawn was awesome. He was this typical guy from the hood, but he was a huge teddy bear when it came to his friends and coworkers. The dude would literally save you from anything, or anyone. Anyways, a minute or so passes, and the police sirens are blaring like a megaphone to your ear. This is where we take the opportunity to look through the back room, and all of a sudden, this masked individual is standing in her small customer lobby. He has a pistol in his hand, and that immediately sends chills down my spine.
Dude, he's armed. What do we do?
I muster out as sweat starts falling down my brow.
Hey, relax, homie. I'll go close the door. Now be quiet and stay where you are,
Shawn whispers as he starts making his way over. We don't even get the chance to close it all the way because the masked man storms in, and we're now face to face with him.
You two, stay quiet, and don't you dare move or make any sudden noise.
As soon as he says that, a couple of officers are just entering the premise when the dude literally fires a couple of shots towards the front window, causing them to shatter.
I've got two people here. Don't you come any closer if you know what's good for them.
Well, great. This guy was holding us in this room. Meanwhile, he started demanding the officers to leave. However, the place was surrounded as far as I could tell. At this point, the masked man is just panicking as he's pacing back and forth.
Oh man, no. I don't want to go back, yo. I've been locked away for too long. This isn't fair.
He yells in anger as Shawn and I are just standing against the back corner. All the while, there are some negotiators that are trying to get him to surrender. Hey, look, dude. You don't want to make this any worse than it already is. Just give up. It's going to save you that much more trouble, Shawn tells him with a compassionate expression. The dude just stares over at Shawn and I as he tells us to keep quiet. Meanwhile, he continues to argue with the officers. I remember whispering to Shawn, telling him how there was no way we were getting out of this in one piece, but he told me that he had an idea. The masked man had his back turned against us, and he was growing more and more irresponsible with his movements. Was he not aware that either Shawn and I could disarm him? Shawn tells me to stay behind cover as he goes to do something I would never forget. As the arm creep is distracted, Shawn leaps at him, and he manages to smack the pistol out of the dude's hand. Once he does this, that's when in the loudest voice I could muster up, I yell to the officers, "He's disarmed! Hurry! Please!" Since it was hard to see, the officers were a bit skeptical, thus we were sort of on our own. Shawn and the masked man are wrestling as I go for the pistol, and I managed to kick it underneath the deep fryer. At last, after what seemed like an eternity, officers and a couple of SWAT come storming in, and eventually, they were able to get us to safety. That was more or less the ending. It was a huge deal in our small town, and we even got interviewed in the local paper. As for the guy who came storming into our restaurant, it turned out that he had just robbed a small bank, and he had stolen a vehicle an hour earlier, where he led officers on a wild chase. That chase ending at Henry's Burgers. So, that's my story. Hello friends, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Just wanted to let you know there are 2 new Creepy Fox designs available right now on my merch shop. The Christmas Fox you saw in today's intro is going to be available until the end of December. Meanwhile, you can get the normal Creepy Fox design all year round. You can see them right below the video player or by checking out the link in the video description. Thanks. Now let's get on to our next story. Number 3. My Bizarre Adventure with a Stalker. This was in 2015. I was working part-time as a cashier at a supermarket in Southern California. For quick context, I'm female and I was 19 years old. Nothing too intimidating. Just a shy 5'3", 110-pound Japanese-American girl. Now, working at that supermarket did help me break my shy streak. I did mention that, didn't I? Funny to think that just a few months before, I was an absolute mess. You couldn't get me out of my room without me having a panic attack. Such a shame, since I have to go over an experience with a creep that extended that anxiety. So, it was about 2 months into the job, and my anxiety was slowly starting to dry, like a drop of water against a burning stove. I could now make friendly conversations with people, and I can even look them in the eye, something I took great pride in. I remember specifically, it was my lunch, and I sat outside eating a sandwich the deli man had prepared, and I was reading some Stone Ocean. For those of you who are fans of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyways, there I am, sitting at a table, enjoying myself a good read, when I hear someone's voice.
Hey, is that JoJo? I love that anime.
I look up, and there standing next to me was this 30-something-year-old guy. He was about 5'11", 200 pounds. He had glasses, some acne across his face, with long greasy hair and a ponytail. Yeah, it's Stone Ocean to be exact. Jolene is my bae, I reply with a joking and polite smile.
It's hard to find girls that like anime, let alone JoJo. You're pretty cute. Do you work here?
I could already tell where this was going, so I just give him a sort of, yeah, please leave me alone, I'm trying to read and enjoy my lunch response. The guy didn't seem to take the hint. He just sits down at the table. Oh, by the way, he didn't just sit across the table like a normal person. No, he literally sat inches from me. And don't even get me started with the smell.
Do you mind if I get your number or add you on Instagram? It'd be nice to hang out sometime and read. By the way, I'm the manager of a comic book store. I can get you all the JoJo you want.
I found it incredibly hard to believe, because when he named the comic store in question, I told him I was friends with the manager. It surely wasn't him. Unless there were 2 managers and he was his long-lost brother. I had just caught him in a lie. Something I quickly mentioned.
I was joking. I'm the manager at another comic store. I'm just messing with you.
At this point, I was starting to get a bit uncomfortable because he kept trying to grab my hand. I'd finally had enough, and I start to get up, but he began to apologize, saying he was a bit awkward, as if it wasn't already obvious. I mean, it's one thing to be awkward and shy. It's another to be grabby with someone you just met. A coworker, who we will call Jamie, had actually noticed my uncomfortable situation, and she walked over and then she said, "Hey girl, you'll never guess what happened. Come on, you have to come see it." She now leads me into the back room, where I tell her about my new creepy stalker, which, by the way, I haven't even gotten to the scariest part. Fast forward about an hour later, and I'm back greeting customers and doing my usual cashier nonsense. As I was helping out this nice lady with her little girl offering me some cookies, I happened to look just beyond my coworker Jamie. There, sitting in one of our in-store chairs, was that guy from earlier. I could see he had his phone pointed directly at me, I wasn't sure if he thought he was being sneaky, but it was pretty obvious he was taking pictures and video. Luckily, nobody else was in my line, so once I check out this customer, I close my lane temporarily and I head over to the manager's office. Now, the nice thing about my manager is she's an absolute sweetheart. So when I told her about what was happening, herself and another male employee walk out to confront the creep, but by that point, he was long gone. Having a hard time, my manager lets me leave an hour earlier, and I try to forget it. Just some random guy trying to get lucky, I guess. But it's still not over. Fast forward to the next morning. I grab my phone to check the time, and my home page is filled to the brim with notifications of likes on my photos. However, it was from an account I didn't recognize. I opened Instagram, and guess who had found me? Yup, the same guy. Now, I had easily over 200 pictures on my account, and he literally clicked on each one, and he liked them. But what made it worse was when I opened the message he had sent. The message he had sent was him going on about how he was sorry and how he just wanted to be friends. I proceeded to block him, and that seemed to solve the issue. But then, there was one night that would forever change me. Now, I should mention that at the time, I was living with 2 other roommates in a pretty small townhouse. The neighborhood was relatively safe, and I never really worried about being alone. This one evening in question, it had been raining and both my roommates had been at a party. As for myself, my older brother Kenny was driving me back to my place, where he was going to spend the night to keep me company. When we arrived, I happened to notice a light illuminating my room. I found this strange, and I pointed out to Kenny, as I always turn my lights off before I leave. Nonetheless, we quickly head inside, soaked by the rainfall, and I started to head to my room so I can change. Kenny had taken his seat in the kitchen. When I open my bedroom door, it's absolutely freezing in there. This is when I noticed my window was slightly opened. So, let's get this straight. The light was on, and my window was open. While I started questioning my forgetfulness, I opened the closet, and there, standing behind some clothing, was none other than my stalker from the supermarket. The guy had the creepiest smile on his face, but perhaps what added the icing to the cake was the knife which he had clearly taken from my kitchen. In absolute shock, I scream at the top of my lungs as I run out toward my brother.
What's going on over there?
My brother responds.
There's someone in my room. He has a knife.
My brother snaps. This is the point. I should mention that he's in the Marines, and hearing I was in danger had sent him into a fit of rage. He storms over to my room. Meanwhile, I'm grabbing my cell phone trying to call police. Unfortunately, my brother recalled that as soon as he enters my bedroom, he sees the creep just crawling out of my window. By the time my brother heads outside, the guy was long gone. Thus, when officers got there 10 minutes later, we were only left with giving them a description. Thank goodness for the creep being so clumsy, not deleting his Instagram and his history. They were able to locate him the next day at his mom's house, and I got a restraining order there soon after. It's now been almost 4 years. I'm very different from what I used to be. I live in another state, and I even have a concealed carry my brother helped me get. Also, I own one of the sweetest German shepherds you'll ever meet, but you wouldn't want to get on his bad side. So, if there's one thing I will say, it's this. It's okay to be shy, and it's okay to be awkward. You don't have to feel bad, but at the same time, you should learn some manners. Don't stalk people, and don't break into their homes. Thanks. Number 4. Library Crazies. I'm a retired Army veteran, currently working as a security guard for a local library. It's pretty simple, and most days I enjoy sitting around looking at my security camera monitors and drinking coffee. I took the job for its simplicity. Plus, if I ever had to deal with any disruptive guests, it usually just took my name of the security guard for them to get up and leave. Now, we've had our deal of crazies, and there was even once I caught some guy looking up some pretty disturbing things on the internet, but there was one encounter that happened last month I wanted to go over. It was around 7:50 p.m. on a Sunday, and we would be closing at 8 p.m. I was across the street quickly grabbing some coffee when I received a call over my radio about some guy causing issues for the librarians on the second floor. I make the 30-second jog back, and first thing I'm able to hear is somebody yelling, and I mean loud. It's like whoever was making all that noise was possessed or something. When I walk up to the second floor, I met with two of the girls who work there. We will call them Jasmine and Robin.
Dude, this guy's been going nuts. We told him he had to leave since we're closing, and he hasn't stopped screaming and tossing things everywhere.
Robin exclaims with concern in her voice. It was an understatement. I could see chairs thrown and tables on their side. Some of the computers had even fallen to the ground as well.
Excuse me, sir, but you need to relax. I need you to leave now.
He stops his sporadic movements. Then he looks at me before cursing me out. The dude had a sailor mouth, and I tried my best to hold back and remain professional.
Yeah, that's nice and all, but we're closing. I need to clean up. Now, can you please come with me so we can talk?
Suddenly, in what seemed like his drunken rage giving him a break, he takes out a knife from his pocket and he begins charging at me. I yell to Jasmine and Robin to go downstairs. Meanwhile, I'm getting ready to quite literally fight for my life. Now, I've had plenty of training dealing with situations like these, but how hilarious was it when he's just a few feet from me and he trips on one of the computer cables, causing the knife to go flying out of his hand. To be fair, it almost connected with my knee, and that would have been all bad. Anyways, since he had essentially caused his own loss because of him causing a mess, I take the opportunity to wrestle him into a submission hold. Meanwhile, Robin had returned with a couple of other librarians. With their help, we managed to keep the guy held pretty tightly until officers arrived a few minutes later and they handcuff him. We later learned that the guy was pretty drunk, and he acted calm at first when he entered 30 minutes prior. It wasn't until Jasmine and Robin went up to him when he broke out in an angered rage. Guess the poor guy loved the library that much, huh? Number 5. The customer who saved me. Around 4 years ago, I used to have a job working for a popular pizza chain. I mainly worked during the evenings, after I was done with my college courses. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I always found it creepy whenever I had to make deliveries to certain parts of the city, mainly the ones where I knew there was a high crime rate. I couldn't really be the judge, so I sort of just had to do what I was told. At least the tips were fairly decent. One night in particular, it had been slower than usual, and my coworker, Jason, ended up taking an early leave. This left just myself and the manager, who was always very friendly to all those who worked there. I think that's why I found it so difficult to say no whenever she requested I stay longer. She always offered bonuses and other little treats, and as a broke college student, I took whatever I could get. Anyways, it was about 30 minutes before closing, and we get an order for a 2-topping pizza.
I can go ahead and handle that delivery for you. Come on, head home. Get some rest.
My manager, Tiffany, said with a smile. I'll admit, I was going to take her up on the offer, but I wanted the extra funds as I was buying a car soon. I insist I could do it, even if it meant I wasn't on the clock. Again, hard-working mentality my parents had risen me up on of always get there first, always leave last.
Are you sure? Well, okay. I'll go ahead and add a bonus to your check. I really appreciate you.
Little did I know that bonus was an extra $100 and an offer to become an assistant manager. Anyways, back to the story. I head into the delivery vehicle, punch in the address, and I start making the short 15-minute drive. Finally, I pull into a normal-looking apartment complex, and I start heading toward my customer.
Hi there. You ordered a 2-topping pizza?
I reply with a smile. The customer was a college student. He looked around my age, average height and average build with some glasses.
Oh, let me go get some extra change. I'll be right back.
I stood there and looked at my watch as the time now read 11:50 p.m. Here's when something creepy takes place. I heard movement in the bush next to me, and then all of a sudden, this drunken man stumbles out from seemingly out of nowhere.
Good evening, sir?
I nervously said as he inches his way closer to my face.
You're hot. Like, really, really hot. Want to come over to my house? It's just a couple of doors down.
He says as the warmth of his garbage-like breath hits me like the warm savanna desert.
Sorry, sir. I'm sort of working here. Now, can you leave me alone?
I'm now wondering where in the world this dude went. Did he drive all the way to the bank just to grab some change?
Sorry about the wait. I'll be right there.
I can hear his voice as it echoes down his hallway. Bear in mind, the creep is still standing just a few feet to my right. Suddenly, I feel his tight grasp on my shoulder as he pulls me toward him. In one quick motion, I see a fist fly in front of my face, and it connects with this creep's cheek. The pizza box falls on the ground, and the customer ushers me inside.
Come on, hurry up,
the customer told me, as I watched the intoxicated man take out what appeared to be like a switchblade. Before I knew it, I was in this customer's living room, while the dude outside is knocking and pounding at the front door. He was going on about how he should open the door, and how he wanted to have the hot girl.
Dude, what's going on? Who is that?
At this point, I'm dealing with being in someone's home and having some drunk creep trying to abduct me just outside.
Come on, follow me. I'll lead you out to the backyard and you can hop over the fence. That guy's a local drunk and he likes to cause a lot of problems.
I trusted this newly acquired friend as he hands over what he owed me. Then he told me to run as he called the police. That was it. I got back to work and I explained the entire situation to my manager, Tiffany. Since I still had the customer's number, I called him back and he told me officers ended up arresting the man. As for his pizza, we reimbursed him and we invited him to the store to get another one the following day. He took the offer, and funny enough, we became pretty good friends thereafter. Occasionally on the weekends, we even play Call of Duty together. So, I guess one negative got turned into a positive, because I made a pretty good friend. Number 6. Henry was packing. I chose to make the title of my story pretty generic, as not to spoil any details. Right now I'm working for a family-owned drive-through convenience store. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically just what it sounds like. Customers pull up in their cars and we take their orders. Say for example they want a soda and some chips. I grab them from the shelves behind me, then I hand it over. Once they've paid, of course. Even though we mainly operate as a drive-through, a couple of local customers will walk up and grab the items themselves. One common customer was an older man named Henry. He's retired in his late 60s, but he's a sweetheart. He would always tell me stories about his late wife and tell me stories of his youth. He would even bring myself and my other co-workers food that he had prepared himself. The guy was a natural-born chef and even worked for a famous local bakery that's still in business till this day. I want to mention him because he's going to play an important role in this recollection. It was early September, and I was working the night shift all alone. It was about 8:30 p.m., and I just helped out a couple of customers. I was sitting on my chair browsing Facebook when my attention was brought up to a figure walking up to my building. Now, since they were still a fair distance from the lights of the coolers and the roof above me, I couldn't really see them too well. However, as I watched them get closer, I get more details. It was my friend Henry. I remember jumping up in excitement, ready to go give him a hug and say hello. However, I don't get the chance to do so because he suddenly yells and he tells me to turn around and run. I was confused, but when I step back and I take a look behind me, there was a man in a hoodie with one of the largest knives I'd ever seen in my life. The creep was literally inches from my face. It was obvious he was trying to sneak up on me because I hadn't heard him. What was he going to do? Well, it's anyone's guess. Anyways, I now run up to Henry as the guy demands I come back, and I open the cash register. I got my answer. He was trying to rob me. Henry tells me to stay back as he approaches this knife-wielding freak. I got scared as my number one concern was now turned toward Henry. Henry
was the sweetest old man I'd ever met, but he would stand no chance against this guy had he attacked. Little did I know, Henry was packing. He takes out a little revolver from his jacket, and he tells this guy to scram. Well, he sure does, and I'm left absolutely speechless. And that was pretty much it. Sorry for the anticlimactic ending. If you really wanted to know what happened after that, I told police, but they never did find him. So, that was the story of how my friend Henry saved me from a potential robbery gone wrong. Number 7. Robbed in the parking lot. Okay, admittedly this didn't happen while I was working, but it did happen a few minutes after I clocked out. Just for quick background, I work for a McDonald's right off a busy highway. Most of our customer base is made up of people on road trips and delivery drivers stopping to rest at the Motel 6 that's next to our fast food restaurant. It was around 8:45 p.m., and I was just clocking out, catching up with a coworker who hadn't shown up in about a couple of weeks. Once the conversation was over, she walks me over to my car. As we start approaching my Mini Cooper, I was able to see somebody trying to fiddle with the passenger side door. "Excuse me, but what are you doing?" I exclaimed, annoyed by this sudden stranger. The guy stops in place, then he puts his hands into his pockets before saying,
I was just admiring it. Sorry to be a bother to you.
I look at my coworker, and I tell her I would take care of it. Meanwhile, she heads back in to return to her shift. "Okay, well, you gotta move. I gotta get going. Have a good night." I start getting even more closer, but then he interrupts me.
Give me all the money you have on you.
I looked at him with confusion. Was he truly serious? "I'm sorry. What was that?" I say, trying to act stupid.
You heard me. Give me some money.
Okay, hold on. First of all, I don't even get the chance to get another word out because the guy takes out a pistol and he starts waving it toward me. Well, damn, I was in for quite a load of you-know-what.
I'm sick of people like you not taking me serious. Hand over your wallet.
Thankfully, I was far enough where if he happened to fire a shot, I would have been able to dodge him. I didn't take the risk, however. I take out my wallet, which really only had like $30 in my debit card, and I toss it over. He picks it up, and I book it back inside, sweating profusely and on the verge of a panic attack. My manager happens to see my concern, and after I told him what had happened, he heads outside. Meanwhile, I was on the phone with police. Here's the twist. It turned out that a couple of police officers were just pulling into our McDonald's. I run up to them, and then I proceed to explain the situation, and I gave them a description of the man. They search the immediate area, where the police find the guy 15 or so minutes later, as he was in the process of trying to rob an older couple. I got my wallet back, and I treated those police officers to some hamburgers. Thus, in the end, things turned out okay, even if it meant I was given quite a scare. Edit. I later learned the pistol was a prop, and it wasn't even real. To think, I let some toy get to me. But to be fair, I had no clue. Number 8. A secret admirer. For anonymity purposes, I've gone and I've removed the name of the person, as well as their general location, as per request. Here's what they had to say regarding a stalker from work. "Hey, Creepy Fox. I've been meaning to write to you for quite some time. I've been listening to you since summer of 2017. I'm a huge fan, by the way. Sorry it took me so long to write to you. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful twins now, but life's good. However, it wasn't always that way. That's why I finally wrote this out for you to read. Here we go. It all started on a random weekday back in 2011 when I was at work. For quick reference, I worked at a mall as a sales associate. I was 22 years old, by the way. I was walking around and helping customers when I happened to notice an older man walk into the store with sunglasses and a hat on. Quite strange considering he was indoors, but I tried not to pay too much attention.
At one point, I was talking to a coworker, and I happened to see the man staring over at us from just behind a couple of displays. It was pretty obvious because when I noticed the guy, he just turned his head around and he looked the other way. If only that was the end of the story, just some secret admirer looking at you from afar. But alas, this story is a lot more worse than you think. Later on that afternoon, it was my lunch break, and I'd gone to the mall's cafeteria to grab my bowl of teriyaki chicken and steamed vegetables from the Chinese restaurant. Once I sat down, I took my phone out, and I started texting my friends. A couple of minutes pass, and I started getting the feeling of being watched. Out of nowhere, my peripheral vision catches a figure towering over me, and when I look to my right, there is the same guy from earlier.
Hey, do you mind if I sit here with you?
The man had said, with a grin that spelled creep all over it.
Yeah, sure. I was about to leave anyways.
I nervously reply, as he pulls out a chair and sits across from me.
Hey, didn't I see you earlier? Yeah, you work here, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I remember seeing you there. What, were you trying to find something for your wife?
What he says next was kind of strange.
No, but I am looking for one. I saw you. I thought perhaps you could be my wife.
The guy was super straightforward. We're talking about a dude who's easily in his early 50s.
I'm sorry, but I'm not really interested. Thanks.
I'm joking. Honestly, do you think I'm so serious? By the way, you're really pretty. Maybe we can get a cup of coffee sometime. Maybe once you're off of work?
I kindly tell him I was busy after work, and he just sort of mumbles to himself. It's like he was talking to an imaginary friend.
Well, it was nice meeting you, sir. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Take care.
I get up and head back to work, trying to put this strange man behind me. Over the next few days, however, the guy shows up at my work, and he's just walking around the store. By this point, I had told my fellow co-workers and even my manager he hadn't really done anything wrong, but he was still freaking me out, since he would wait for me. No kidding. I want to say it was the third day I finally had enough, and I told him he had to leave me alone, otherwise I was going to get a restraining order put against him. This only seemed to frustrate the already deranged man, because he goes into a fit of rage. As he was doing that, he started tossing displays and making a mess. Heck, he even pushed one of the security guards who tried to get him to leave. But what really scared me was when the security guard was escorting him out.
I'm gonna come back for you someday. Just you wait.
He ended up yelling. Very creepy. However, one more thing happened. A couple of months had passed since I'd last encountered my admirer from the mall. I remember I was watching the news, and there was a story about a man who had been arrested. It turned out he had abducted a college student around my age, and he was only caught when police officers happened to notice his suspicious activity while he stopped at a diner. I got the chills when his face was plastered on the TV screen. As of now, I believe he's serving at least 20 plus years behind bars. Good. I've since married, and I'm living happily. Hey everyone, it's me again. Just really quickly, I wanted to say thank you very much to all my channel members who have signed up to support the channel. It really does go a long way, and as you know, I can't do it without you. Thus, any bit helps. So if you want to check out the channel memberships and get some cool perks like shoutouts, then check it out right below where it says subscribe. Thank you. Now let's get on to our final story. Number 9. Creepy Garden. I don't know if this really counts as scary per se, but I think you can include it since it does have to deal with a freak and at work. Just a quick reference point, I work at an olive garden in a pretty nice area of my city. This is in Northern California if anyone's interested. By the way, this happened last year. Being a waiter, I'm used to having to guest interact with a whole bunch of characters. You get the nice families who tell jokes and leave you amazing tips. Then you get the jerks who don't even bother with manners. I remember some dad got mad at me because I was taking too long. Guess he didn't see the place was jam-packed. But apart from some rude guests, there was one in particular who had another side to him. I was waiting tables as per usual, and I ended up serving this average-looking gentleman. He had business casual attire with brown hair combed back and some glasses. He reminded me a lot of my old college professor. Anyways, I go ahead and take his order of Tuscany pasta and salad, and everything is going by fairly typically. Once his order was ready, he goes on to say something along the lines of,
"You're really cute. By the way, do you have a boyfriend?"
I kindly tell him I do, and this guy freaks out. And I mean, full-on goes into berserker mode. He tosses his glass of water to the ground and he demands I give him a chance, and I dump my boyfriend.
"Why is it that all you pretty girls have to have boyfriends? Here I am being a gentleman to you, complimenting you, leaving you a nice tip, and you're acting all flirty and nice. Yet, you have to play me dirty like that, don't you?"
To be fair, I'd been single for about 5 years before I met him. Anyways, I'm nice to everyone, and how he mistook that kindness for flirting was beyond me. It did spook me out a bit as people were now staring at the two of us, and he was starting to get a bit violent. Thankfully, there were these two guys eating at a couple of tables over that were able to get the guy to leave. I think they were college football players or something because they had that build to them. I thank them for their consideration, and I go about the rest of my shift, albeit somewhat shaken up. A couple of days later, I was returning to my car, and I happened to see a little note on my windshield. I don't open it until I got home, and when I see what's written, I got the chills. The message said something like, "I know where you live. Don't think I've forgotten about you." I took that note to the police station, and I told them about the creep I encountered a couple of days ago at work. Since I wasn't sure if it was the same guy, there wasn't much they could do. And that was pretty much the end. Sorry to upset you thinking there might be more. But as soon as the guy had come into my life, he had left. I want to hope he learned his ways and he realized what he did was a bad idea, but I can't help but feel he's waiting. I don't think so, but I'll keep you updated throughout the coming weeks and months. Creepy Fox, look out for a username called Princess Meguming92. I'll leave a comment on the video you include this story on. I'll provide any updates. Thanks for listening. Oh, quick update. I've since purchased a taser, and I even carry some pepper spray on my purse. I haven't had a problem since.